It was 2:37 a.m. when Daniel's phone began to vibrate across the nightstand. The sound pulled him from a deep, uneasy sleep. He fumbled for it, knocking over his reading glasses. The screen glowed harshly in the dark. Unknown number. Nevada area code. His throat was dry when he answered. Yes. A young man's nervous voice came through. Sir, are you Mr. Daniel Carter? I got your number from the lady here. She says she's your wife, Mrs. Beatrice Carter. She's at our gas station. She's cold, bruised, and scared. Daniel sat upright instantly, blood roaring in his ears. What? That's impossible. She's with my daughter and her husband on vacation. Where are they? The voice hesitated. Sir, she's alone. Been here since yesterday morning. Daniel was already out of bed before the call ended. He pulled on yesterday's clothes, hands shaking as he found his wallet and car keys. The house felt too silent. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. Beatrice, his wife of 41 years, should have been safe in Death Valley with their daughter Laura and her husband Oscar. They left her, he muttered, disbelief twisting into rage. He scribbled a note, gone to get Beatrice, then crushed it and threw it away. There was no one left at home to read it anyway. Within minutes, his car was cutting through the darkness, headlights slicing across the endless desert road. The highway stretched black and empty for miles. Daniel pushed the speedometer to 90, the steering wheel trembling beneath his hands. His mind replayed the last family dinner, Oscar smiling too wide, refilling Beatrice's glass again and again. Laura had been unusually quiet, eyes darting toward her husband. Daniel had dismissed it then, but now the memory burned. When Desert Stop finally appeared, its flickering lights felt like a cruel mirage. He parked roughly, slammed the door and saw her, Beatrice, sitting alone on a metal bench, wrapped in a blanket, shivering under the harsh white glow. Her once neat hair hung in tangled strands, her travel clothes wrinkled and dusty. But what froze Daniel's breath were the bruises, dark finger marks on her arms, a purple blotch along her cheekbone. She looked up slowly as he approached. Her eyes filled with tears and shame instead of relief. I thought they'd come back, she whispered. I waited. I thought maybe they just forgot. The young gas station attendant hovered nearby, anxious. I'm David, he said quietly. She's been here since yesterday morning. Wouldn't let me call anyone at first. Daniel pressed cash into the boy's hand. You did the right thing when my own family didn't. Daniel helped Beatrice into the car. She felt small, fragile, like a ghost of herself. The drive to the nearest motel was silent except for her soft, uneven breathing. At the Desert Rose Motel, Daniel paid in cash, led her inside, and turned on the dim lamp. Hot shower, clean towels, then sleep, he said gently. Beatrice stood motionless, eyes distant. I'm sorry, she murmured. You had to drive all this way. Daniel caught her trembling hands. Stop. None of this is your fault. She broke down then, tears spilling freely. That night, as she cried in the shower, Daniel sat awake, already forming a plan. Someone had hurt his wife, and he would make them pay. Beatrice woke late the next morning, her voice hoarse and her eyes red from crying. Daniel brought her coffee, setting it on the small table by the window. Eat something, he said softly. She picked at the toast, her hands trembling. We were fine the first day, she whispered. Oscar was charming. He made me laugh. Laura smiled like she used to. I thought maybe I'd been wrong about them. Daniel sat beside her quietly, waiting. Then, Beatrice continued, Oscar brought some papers. He said they were just travel forms, insurance, emergency contacts, but they weren't. They were power of attorney papers, giving him control of everything. Daniel's chest tightened. You're sure? She nodded slowly. It mentioned our house, our bank accounts. I told them I wouldn't sign anything until you looked at it. Oscar's face changed. Laura said, Mom, don't you trust us? Didn't feel like family anymore. It felt like pressure. Daniel's voice hardened. You did the right thing. Beatrice looked away. I went to the restroom at the gas station after that. When I came out, they were gone. She bit her lip, fighting tears. I waited all day. I thought maybe they'd come back. Daniel reached across the table, covering her hand. They won't get away with this. That afternoon, while Beatrice rested, Daniel sat at the motel desk and opened his small leather notebook, a habit from his years as a prosecutor. He wrote down every detail she'd told him. Dates, times, names, everything. Then he turned on his phone and started recording voice notes. Possible elder abuse. Attempted coercion into signing fraudulent documents. Abandonment in dangerous conditions. His tone was calm, but his eyes burned cold. When Beatrice came out of the bathroom, he was already packing their bags. We're going home, he said. You need safety, and I need evidence. The drive back to Carson City was silent, the desert sun glaring across the windshield. Beatrice leaned against the window, her reflection pale and tired. Daniel's mind worked like a machine, assembling timelines, cross-referencing facts, building a case before anyone realized one existed. When they finally reached their house, he called their family doctor, Dr. Helen Santos. I need you to document injuries, he said. Every mark, every bruise. When Helen arrived, she examined Beatrice carefully, measuring and photographing everything. This wasn't an accident, she murmured. Someone grabbed her hard. Daniel only nodded. I know who. After the doctor left, Daniel went to his office, the same room where he'd built cases for decades. He spread papers across his desk. Beatrice's travel documents, their bank statements, his notes from the motel. Then he took pictures of the fraudulent forms she'd been shown, highlighting words like incapacity, transfer of property, financial control. Every sentence reeked of manipulation. He opened their bank accounts online. Small withdrawals appeared, always under $2,000, all sent to Laura and Oscar's joint account. The total was $15,000. Daniel stared at the number until his vision blurred. Then quietly he said, They thought I retired from justice. They were wrong. That evening, Daniel's phone rang again, Laura's number flashing across the screen. His pulse steadied as he tapped record. Dad, she began, her tone overly sweet. Something terrible's happened. Mom disappeared. We've been searching everywhere. Daniel's jaw tightened. Stop lying, he said coldly. She's home with me. I picked her up from a gas station after you left her there for 36 hours. Silence. Then Oscar's voice joined the line, smooth and rehearsed. Ivory, you've misunderstood everything. Daniel's tone turned to steel. No, I've understood perfectly. You abandoned my wife and committed fraud. We'll talk soon, in person. He hung up and saved the recording. For 2 days, Daniel worked nonstop. He organized evidence in folders. Financial theft, medical injuries, recorded calls. He photographed Beatrice's bruises with a ruler for scale and documented every unauthorized transfer. His office looked like a courtroom in miniature. On the 3rd day, he called his old colleague, Marcus Fleming. Marcus, I need your eyes on a case. Marcus, once a prosecutor specializing in elder abuse, agreed to meet. The next morning, Daniel brought 2 heavy folders to his office. Marcus flipped through the pages quietly, then nodded. This is airtight, he said. They'll never see it coming. Marcus outlined Daniel's options: criminal charges, civil suits, or what he called a choice. Sometimes, Marcus said, the threat of justice does more damage than the punishment. Daniel considered that, then smiled faintly. I know just what to do. When he returned home, Beatrice was sitting by the window, folding and refolding a napkin. Will you confront them? She asked softly. Yes, he said. But my way. He picked up his phone and called Laura. I want to see you and Oscar at the house next Saturday, 2 o'clock. Bring the kids. She hesitated. Dad, maybe we should wait. Saturday, he repeated. Don't be late. Valentine's Day arrived, a day of love, now repurposed for reckoning. Daniel and Beatrice prepared quietly. At exactly 2, Oscar's black SUV rolled into the driveway. Laura stepped out holding a bakery box, her children running ahead, innocent smiles lighting their faces. Daniel knelt to hug them, his voice gentle. "Grandpa missed you." For 30 minutes, they all played and laughed as if nothing was wrong. Then Daniel sent the kids to watch a cartoon in the guest room. The door clicked shut, and silence filled the living room like a held breath. "Sit," Daniel said. "We're going to talk." He placed the evidence on the coffee table. Medical reports, photos, bank statements. Oscar's smirk faltered. "What is this supposed to prove?" "Assault," Daniel replied. "Abandonment. Fraud." Laura's voice trembled. "Dad, we can explain." "Then explain the bruises. Explain the gas station. Explain the missing money." Silence. Daniel's voice stayed calm, razor-sharp. "You have 2 choices. Return every dollar you stole and stay out of our lives, or face prosecution. You have 48 hours. Oscar stood abruptly, his face red. "You're bluffing. No one will believe you." Daniel met his eyes. "I was a prosecutor for 40 years. I don't bluff." Oscar stormed out, slamming the door. Through the window, Daniel watched his car peel away. Beatrice sat trembling beside him, tears streaming silently. "He'll regret it," Daniel said quietly. For the next 2 days, there was only waiting. No call, no apology. On Monday afternoon, as the clock struck 2, the doorbell rang. A young woman stood there, holding an envelope. "Mr. Carter." "Yes. You've been served." Daniel's heart sank as he read the first line. Petition for conservatorship. Laura had filed to take legal control of her parents' lives and assets, claiming they were mentally unfit. Beatrice read over his shoulder, her hands shaking. "She's saying we can't take care of ourselves," she whispered. "That we're incompetent." Daniel's face hardened. "No, she's saying exactly what Oscar told her to say." 30 minutes later, they were in Marcus's office again. He scanned the documents, his expression grim. "They're desperate," Marcus said. "We'll prove your competency and counter with evidence of their fraud and abandonment." Daniel nodded. "Do it. File everything." The war had officially begun, and this time Daniel wasn't just defending himself. He was fighting for everything they had built together. Over the next week, Daniel and Beatrice underwent full medical and cognitive evaluations. Memory tests, problem-solving, mental assessments, all flawless. The doctor smiled. "You're sharper than most 50-year-olds, Mr. Carter." "Put it in writing," Daniel said. Meanwhile, he made another move. From a payphone in town, he called child services anonymously. "There are children in a home with financial instability and parental conflict," he said calmly. "They need a welfare check." He hung up, broke the phone in half, and threw it away. Oscar wanted a war. Daniel was giving him one, legally and quietly. Through old contacts in the prosecutor's office, Daniel learned Oscar had gambling debts. Nearly $90,000. The puzzle clicked. That's why he wanted control of their assets. Daniel hired a forensic accountant, gave him Oscar's name and social security number, and waited. When the report arrived, it confirmed everything: illegal gambling accounts, loans, and a forged mortgage. Daniel shared it with Marcus. "This is gold," Marcus said. "We'll bury them in their own paperwork." The court hearing for conservatorship came 2 weeks later. Judge Wolfe presided, a woman Daniel respected. When the evidence was presented, she ruled swiftly. Petition denied. The courtroom was silent when Judge Wolfe spoke again. "In addition, I'm granting a protective order. The petitioners are to stay at least 100 yards away from Mr. and Mrs. Carter at all times." Daniel exhaled slowly, feeling the first wave of victory. Outside the courthouse, he caught Oscar's glare across the parking lot. Pure hate. He leaned close to Laura, whispering something sharp. She nodded. Daniel knew it wasn't over, But now the law was on his side. Marcus patted his shoulder. "You won today," he said. "Now let's see how they handle losing." Daniel smiled faintly. "Badly. Very badly." 3 days after the hearing, Daniel received the forensic accountant's full report. It was worse than he'd imagined. Oscar had drained accounts, taken loans, even forged a second mortgage on their home without Laura's consent. The man was drowning in gambling debts and trying to use Beatrice's assets as his lifeline. Daniel printed every page, locked them in his safe, and called Marcus. "If I wanted to show this to Laura," he asked, "would it be legal?" Marcus hesitated. "If it's factual and you obtained it properly, yes, but tread carefully." Daniel nodded slowly. "I don't threaten people. I educate them." The next few days, Daniel quietly studied Laura's habits. Every Tuesday, she shopped alone at the grocery store on Carson Street. Oscar was always at work by 7. On a clear Tuesday morning, Daniel parked his car outside the store and waited. At 9:30, she walked in wearing dark glasses, looking tired. He followed at a distance, 100 yards exactly, within the restraining order's limit. When she finally noticed him near the fruit section, her eyes widened. "Dad, you can't be here," she hissed. "Relax," he said calmly. "We're in public. You need to see something." He placed a thick folder of documents on the orange display. "It's yours. Read it." Laura's face drained of color. "What is this?" she asked, voice trembling. "Your reality," Daniel said quietly. "Oscar's gambling accounts, the forged mortgage, the loans, all in your name." "That's not true. Check your credit report, then tell me." He stepped back, maintaining distance. "I'm not asking for anything. I'm just giving you the truth. What you do with it is your choice." Then he turned and walked away, leaving her frozen beside the oranges, staring at the folder like it might explode. For the first time he'd planted doubt, in her loyalty, her marriage, and in Oscar's lies. That evening, Daniel told Beatrice only part of the story. "I saw Laura today," he said. "She looked lost." Beatrice's eyes softened. "Do you think she'll ever forgive herself?" "She doesn't need forgiveness yet," he said coldly. "She needs clarity." The next day, an unknown number texted Daniel. "This is Laura. We need to talk. Tomorrow. 2 p.m. at Karma Cafe." He showed Beatrice. "Should I go?" "Yes," she said softly. "But be careful." Daniel smiled faintly. "Careful is all I know how to be." The next afternoon, Daniel arrived at Karma Cafe 5 minutes early. Laura was already there, sitting in a corner booth with the folder in front of her. She looked older, thinner, defeated. "Is this real?" she asked the moment he sat down. "Every word," Daniel replied. "I verified everything." She pressed her hands to her forehead. "The mortgage? My name isn't even on it. He forged my signature." "Yes," Daniel said quietly. "And the debts are worse than you think." Her voice cracked. "Why are you telling me this? After everything?" He looked at her steadily. "Because you're still my daughter. And Rachel and Tom are still my grandchildren." Laura's tears came fast, her voice breaking. "What do I do?" Daniel leaned forward. "You start protecting your children. File for divorce. Get out before he drags you under." She stared at him, disbelief flickering in her eyes. "You really think I can fix this?" "No," he said calmly. "But you can stop it from getting worse." She gathered the folder, whispered, "I need time," and left without another word. Through the cafe window, Daniel watched her sit in her car, staring at the papers before making a call. Even from afar he could see it. Anger, shock, realization. She was confronting Oscar. That night, Daniel sat awake in his office, reviewing his notes. The phone remained silent. No word from Laura, no messages from Marcus. But he wasn't worried. He'd seen the look in her eyes at the cafe. Doubt had taken root, and once doubt begins, truth always follows. 12 days later, his phone rang at 8 in the morning. Dad, Laura's voice trembled through the speaker. You were right about everything. The debts, the gambling, the forged mortgage. I checked it all myself. I didn't know. Daniel's voice stayed calm. You didn't know about the debts. But you knew you left your mother in the desert. Silence filled the line, followed by quiet sobs. He told me she was lying, that she ruined everything. I believed him. I wanted to. Daniel let her cry before speaking again. You want to make things right. Then listen carefully. File for divorce immediately. Agree to let us take the kids temporarily. And return the money you took. Dad, I can't. Child Services is already investigating your home, he said evenly. If you don't act now, they'll decide for you. A long pause, then her broken voice. How long do I have? 2 weeks, Daniel said. No excuses. Okay, she whispered. I'll do it. Daniel added one last instruction. His tone deceptively casual. When you file for divorce, request an investigation into the notary who handled the mortgage. That person may have been involved. Why? She asked. Because Oscar will try to cover his tracks. Let him. She didn't understand the trap he'd just set, but she agreed. I'll include it. They hung up. Daniel stared at the family photo on his desk. Laura at 8 years old, missing a front tooth and laughing. He sighed. You were innocent once, he whispered. Now you're learning the cost of choices. 2 weeks later, Marcus called. She did it, he said. Filed for divorce this morning. Cited fraud, forged mortgage, and requested custody. Daniel smiled faintly. Good. The avalanche begins. That same afternoon, Oscar was served at work. Witnesses said he read the papers, went pale, and walked out without a word. That night, Daniel stood at the window with Beatrice beside him. It's starting, he said. Her voice was quiet. Do you think she'll ever forgive us for what's coming? Daniel turned toward her. Forgive us? No, my love. She'll thank us, one day, when she realizes justice saved her life. 6 days after the divorce filing, Daniel's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You did this. You ruined my family. This isn't over. He calmly took a screenshot, forwarded it to Marcus, and deleted the message. Evidence, he muttered. That night, headlights swept across their window at midnight. Beatrice stirred beside him. Daniel, someone's outside. Heavy knocks rattled the front door. Come out, you coward. Oscar's voice, drunk with rage. Daniel whispered. Call the police. He stood silently in the hallway, phone in hand, listening. 7 minutes later, flashing red lights painted the walls. Oscar was arrested for violating the restraining order. The next morning, Marcus called. He's in jail. Bail set at $5,000. Daniel sighed. He'll post it. Probably, Marcus said. But every violation strengthens your case. 6 days later, Oscar proved him right again. At 3 a.m., he broke into the office of Carmen Rodriguez, the notary who'd witnessed the fake mortgage. Security cameras caught everything. His face, his fingerprints, his desperation. He was arrested before dawn. Marcus called again, voice almost amused. Your son-in-law just buried himself. Breaking and entering, attempted theft, destruction of property. Judge Martinez is going to love this one. Daniel smiled grimly. Justice has patience. By the end of April, Oscar's life had collapsed completely. He lost his job after the arrest. His car was repossessed, and foreclosure papers arrived at his door. Laura moved into a small apartment downtown with the children, working as a paralegal. She made her first payment, $500, to repay what she owed. One afternoon, Carmen Rodriguez called Daniel personally. Mr. Carter, I wanted to thank you. The police told me why he broke into my office. I'll testify if you need me. Daniel noted her words carefully. You'll have your chance, he said. We all will. A few days later, Marcus informed him of a plea deal. He'll plead guilty to breaking and entering. 6 months probation, 200 hours of community service restitution. If he cooperates, no jail. Daniel nodded. He'll take it. He has nothing left to fight with. 2 days after that, Laura called. Dad, she said softly, the kids want to say goodbye to him before they move in with you and Mom. Can we meet at the park? Supervised. Daniel hesitated. You want me there? Yes, she whispered. He needs to see you, to understand you're not afraid of him anymore. Daniel agreed. Sunday noon, the park was bright and still. Beatrice sat on a bench near the playground while Daniel stood by the picnic table. Laura arrived first with the children, followed 10 minutes later by Oscar, looking hollow and broken. His hair was unkempt, his clothes wrinkled. Rachel ran to him. Daddy, she cried. Oscar knelt, hugging her tight, his face collapsing under the weight of shame. Hi, sweetheart, he murmured. I missed you. Daniel watched silently. 15 minutes later, Laura said, Time's up. Oscar looked at Daniel. You did this, he said quietly. You destroyed me. Daniel met his eyes. No, you did. Oscar left without another word. Daniel watched him walk away, shoulders slumped, future gone. Do you think he'll ever change? Beatrice asked. Men like that don't change, Daniel said softly. They just fade. A week later, Daniel attended Oscar's sentencing hearing. Judge Martinez's courtroom was cold and quiet. Oscar, in county scrubs, looked smaller somehow. The public defender pleaded for leniency. The judge was unmoved. 6 months probation, 200 hours community service, restitution, and a permanent restraining order, she declared. Any violation results in jail. Oscar nodded weakly. His eyes met Daniel's for one last second before looking away. A week after sentencing, Laura called. It's over, she said. The divorce is final. He's gone for good. Daniel said nothing for a long moment. Good, he finally replied. Now rebuild. Later that week, he made a quiet phone call to Oscar's employer, providing court case numbers and conviction records. 3 days later, Marcus called with an update. Oscar's been fired. Official reason, ethics violation. Daniel didn't celebrate. He simply walked into the living room where Beatrice was reading and said, It's done. She looked up and nodded. Good. Let's move on. The following month, Daniel and Beatrice met with their estate attorney. We want everything secured in a trust for our grandchildren, Daniel explained. Our daughter gets 50,000. No more, no less. The lawyer raised an eyebrow. A symbolic forgiveness. Daniel nodded. Exactly. The trust was airtight. Rachel and Tom would inherit the home and savings when they turned 25, protected from any future spouse's interference. Beatrice signed last, her hand steady. This way, she said softly. No one can hurt us again. For the first time in months, Daniel felt peace settle like a soft blanket. Summer came. Rachel and Tom moved in, filling the house with laughter. Beatrice took them to art classes. Daniel taught Tom how to ride a bike. The children's joy became their therapy. Laura visited every Saturday, always punctual, always humble. She'd started night classes in business administration and brought homemade cookies each time. Beatrice watched her carefully one afternoon. You're trying, she said. That's what matters. Laura smiled faintly. I'm not asking for forgiveness. Just a chance to prove I deserve it. Daniel listened quietly from the porch. Progress was slow but real. On their 41st wedding anniversary, Beatrice baked lemon cake, just like their first year together. Laura and the children joined for dinner. The evening was warm, filled with easy laughter. When the kids ran off to play, Beatrice leaned toward Daniel. Do you think we're finally okay? He looked at her, the woman he'd rescued from a cold gas station months ago, now strong and steady again. Yes, he said. Because justice isn't revenge when it restores peace. She smiled softly. Then justice was served. Daniel looked around the table at his healed family and whispered, Completely.